Good morning, everybody, and thanks so much for joining us once again for Mondays with Mark. Just our usual housekeeping announcements as we get started here. We ask that we keep your microphones muted throughout the duration of the show, just so we don't get any feedback and it's easier to hear our guest and our host. And then if you have any questions, you can use the raise hand feature, which is the little smiley face emoji with the hand raised, and you can ask your question audibly. You can unmute later in the show, or you can use the little chat bubble that's up top there and type in your question, and we'll monitor that and make sure we get it answered as we go through. But without any further ado, I'd like to introduce our district director here for the SBA in Rhode Island, Mark Hayward.
Well, thank you very much, Matthew. It's great to be back. I know we had a couple of weeks hiatus. 1 week I was kind of under the weather. The second week had a very important task, and the task was to watch my grandson that day. So we always have to have our priorities straight. You know, it's speaking about priorities, I think a lot of people really don't understand the impact that the Department of Defense has here, not only in Southern New England, but in particularly here in the state of Rhode Island. And I'm really pleased that Molly is with us today for a lot of reasons. One, no, in case anybody wanted to ask, was the song that the Molly Magee really around Molly Magee from SENEDIA? No, that's not what happened. But it's really, Molly, it's great to have you here today. I know a lot of people are interested as to what you do and how you do it, but I really want to talk also about the importance of what the Department of Defense has here in Rhode Island and the importance as to how it impacts our local small businesses. So, Molly, it's great to have you again. And, you know, I think a lot of people don't understand what SENEDIA is and what it does. So let's start off with having a discussion about that.
Sure. Thanks, Mark. Thanks for inviting me to be here. So SENEDIA, we're going through a rebranding. We used to be the Southeastern New England Defense Industry Alliance. SENEDIA, not one of your better acronyms, but it's ours and we love it. But we are rebranding because really our impact now has gone beyond Southeastern New England. So we're now going by our acronym SENEDIA with the tagline, the Alliance for Defense Tech, Talent, and Innovation. We are an alliance of companies that do business with the Department of Defense and the Department of Homeland Security. We have well over 100 members. And Mark, as you said, I'd like to just give an overview of Rhode Island, since that's where we are, and SENEDIA is hubbed here in Rhode Island. The defense industry, the defense sector, really the defense cluster, which means both government and industry, is really an important economic generator. To lay out, you know, who's in this defense cluster, certainly our Rhode Island Guard, both the Army and Air Force. There's a major installation called the Newport Naval Training Command, which is obviously a major training command for the Navy, but it also has 50 subservient commands underneath it, such as Officer Candidate School, Supply Corps, JAG, many training.
Molly, you're on mute.
Yeah, you're going to have to unmute there.
Sorry.
Yep, that's fine.
Go back to the beginning, or did it happen on?
No, we got you. I think where we ended was the Newport Command. If you can stop from there on.
Okay, Naval Station Newport, the training command, has 50 subservient training commands that are hosted in Newport, Rhode Island, such as the Surface Warfare Officer School, the Officer Candidate School, the JAG School. 17,000 Navy personnel come through Newport on an annual basis to go to these schools, so it shows you the power of them. The other parts of the cluster are the Naval War College. That is the senior leadership training for naval officers. So many and almost all of the admirals, all of the leaders within the Navy Command come through Newport to go to that school. There's also an international command training school as part of the Navy War College, and that's where our allied commands can send their senior naval folks. So again, the power of it. And then the big impact for the state of Rhode Island is the Naval Undersea Warfare Center Division Newport. I was an employee there for 30 years. I started off my career on the engineering side, and then I retired.
Must have been 12 when you started.
I was, Molly. Thank you, Mark. I retired as their chief financial officer. That command does over $1.4 billion a year. And they contract out, which means they go to industry for half of that. So really big impact. So overall, the defense cluster in Rhode Island is a 4.3 billion annual economic generator. It is the highest wage sector in the state of Rhode Island. We generate over 30,000 jobs. And what I think is most interesting, for every 100 defense cluster jobs, we create another 119 jobs that support us. So again, a very big economic engine for the state of Rhode Island.
And we're not talking about, just entry jobs. We're talking about high pay, high scale, high, defense related jobs, right, Molly?
We are. Certainly supporting the Naval Undersea Warfare Center. That is the Navy's major research command for undersea technology. So you've got a lot of scientists and engineers there, high-powered jobs. Let's also remember we've got Electric Boat here. So Electric Boat has, for instance, received the biggest contract the Department of Navy ever put out. So they are building our Virginia-class submarines and also the new Columbia-class submarines. 2 Virginia-class a year, 1 Columbia-class. So there's also a significant demand for trade and industrial workforce. And again, those are great. Those are high-tech, high-wage jobs also. So there's a gamut of positions you can have if you want to work for defense.
Even the welders who work for, a lot of people don't think, but the welders that are working down at Electric Boat are very high skilled and high paid. Isn't that correct, Molly?
That is absolutely correct. And the demand for workers to build these submarines is growing exponentially. So if you know anybody who's interested in getting into really a great career, a career for life, doing something for our country, this is a great opportunity and a great career.
I was talking to Melody Weeks this morning, and I know, and what I was trying to make the connection here for the people who are listening to us today, and then the people who will come back and listen to us a few days from now. Clearly Molly will have 300 or 400 people that'll look at what we're doing, but you have a strong connection with the PTAC here in Rhode Island, correct?
Absolutely. The PTAC is such a wonderful resource. And for a company who wants to do business with the Department of Defense, I often say it's not for the faint of heart. It's not like you could decide one day that you're going to do it. But boy, we have a resource with Melody and PTAC that can step you through the whole process of what you need to put together so that you can be part of the defense industry, part of our defense cluster.
How many people, because I know that within the Newport community, let's say Newport, Middletown, Portsmouth, and even Jamestown to a certain extent, a lot of the businesses relocate in those areas just so that they can service the defense, whatever the branch their service, be it the Undersea Warfare Center or be it Naval Station Newport, whatever. But so we're talking about jobs that are local for the most part. Was there any study done as to what the average contract is for the companies around here? And there's a reason why I'm asking this.
It really varies. On some of the research related ones, for really advanced research, some of them could be a couple $100,000. The production ones can be multi-million dollars. Providing supplies and services to the Department of Defense can be anywhere. What I will say that I think is important, during this whole COVID environment we've been through, we saw how it really negatively impacted some of the sectors of our economy, and luckily they're coming back. During that time frame, we grew. We were growing exponentially. We were hiring. We are a really strong sector. The work that's being done here in Rhode Island, especially related to undersea technology, is very important to the Department of Defense. So as I look out, that we're going to keep growing.
A couple of things. One, the reason why I ask that is because we always get into this situation. Are you a big business? Are you a small business? When you're a small business, there's always, and I know DOD is always looking for small business set-asides. They're always looking for minority-owned, women-owned businesses. And within, and I call it SENEDIA. I'm sorry. It's just an accent I have. But there are a tremendous amount of women-owned, minority-owned businesses. We've got people like Right Solutions, and I know that there are cutoffs, and staying within those cutoffs. to be a small business is critical for a lot of these. And I think if my memory serves me correct, the size standard goes to 25 million. I could be wrong, but it could increase.
Yeah, I think it increased. And again, it depends on your NAICS code for the contract
Right.
that's being put out. Small businesses are the economic engine of our country. And I know I'm preaching to the choir here with you.
Yes.
Extremely important. And yes, many of the businesses around here are small. We do have large businesses such as Electric Boat, such as Raytheon. We have satellite offices for some of the other big folks. But even with the big companies, they contract out. They partner with small businesses. Department of Defense really believes in reaching out to small businesses in a couple ways. Number one, you said that they have criteria that they have to meet, that so many of their contracts have to go there because they know they're innovative, they're lean, they're agile, they can do things sometimes faster than a big company. The other thing is SENEDIA spun off another organization called the Undersea Technology Innovation Consortium. And we are focused on prototyping undersea technology. And we won a special contract called another transaction agreement from the Department of Navy. We have a consortium of about 300 member companies nationwide, but many of them here in Rhode Island. The interesting thing is we do reach out to what we call the non-traditional contractor. And that's companies, small companies that may have never done business with the Department of Defense before, but have some unique technology. So we want to reach out to them, talk to them, help them work with PTAC. We can help them. So again, we can bring that technology to bear to get to our fleet.
Molly, how does these companies come to your attention? And if they did, are they, because in the 8A program, we have mentor proteges and we have a number of other things, but how do you get them to the point where they're ready to go to PTAC? Or how do you get them to get to Melody or get to the necessary things that they need to get to that point? And the reason why I say this is we're constantly being told, particularly as it relates to DOD, is I believe they have a 25% requirement that they have to, for small, be they 8A or other minority-owned businesses, women-owned businesses. So there's a tremendous amount of money that's got to go into the small business sector. And the question is, if you're ready to go, how do you find them? And then how do you get them into the right church and the right pew?
Right. So we do a lot of awareness. Both SENEDIA and UTIC do that. Tell what we're doing. If we find a company, we'll work with them. We'll give them help. We'll step them and get them to the right resources. Anybody who wants to do business with defense, again, it takes a little bit to do that, but reach out. If you reach out to us, and we may not have the exact answer, we're going to reach you out to somebody else who can. So, I often say with SENEDIA, we do two things. We do economic development, which falls under what we've been talking about. How can we continue to grow this sector? How can we bring companies in to meet the needs? And it's always meeting the needs of defense. That's the big picture. But we also do workforce development, which is equally as important because we can't grow the sector and the cluster unless we have the workforce. So, we're really thankful that we have a Real Jobs Rhode Island grant that helps us. Really, it started out with cybersecurity because that was the biggest need for our member companies. As I often tell people, Real Jobs Rhode Island was really a game changer. It really put industry in the driver's seat to say, what's your need? What do you need? How would you train the people? Okay, then let's do it. So we have a cybersecurity internship program. We have an engineering and science. We've now expanded to supply chain business, and we have a real focus on veterans. So again, to everybody listening, if you know anybody who's interested in a job, reach out to us. So that's all on sort of the engineering and science and backroom side. But SENEDIA was also awarded a $20 million contract to do workforce development for the trade and industrial skills, specifically in support of submarine shipbuilding. And again, here we do reach out. We're going out to schools. We've got programs. We're working hand in hand with Electric Boat. These are great jobs. The message that I always want to get across is there are wonderful jobs if you are inclined to go, and get a degree in college and whatever, but there are really wonderful jobs and important jobs if you don't want to go to college and if you want to get a trade skill. And again, I highly encourage people who have a leaning that way to think about it.
I'm with you 100%. We were just talking about this recently about it doesn't necessarily require a 4-year degree with a lot of debt in order to make a substantial amount of money. Clearly, the trade side of it, and I'll just illustrate by an example, Molly. We went to Block Island as we do every year. You know, I bring lenders and small business people over to talk about and ask them, what do you need from us? How can we help you? And the town manager got up and said, you know, Mark, we have no electrician on island. We have no plumber on island. We have no skilled labor on island. She says, we have to go off island and procure those services. So basically what you say, and they can make a lot of money if they worked on Block Island. So what you're saying is that these same individuals can make a substantial amount of resources just by going down the trade route, which leads me to, are you working with the trade schools that we have here in Rhode Island? And I, you know, I got to throw this in because I went to see the Worcester Trade School, which is phenomenal. The one in Blue Diamond, which is in Fall River, is phenomenal because they concentrate on developing the individuals who come through that program. So are you working across the board and across state lines, Molly?
We absolutely are. The career and technical schools, I think, are really an important and key part of us being able to solve this. It really is a national crisis, as you referred to, for trade and industrial skilled workers, certainly for submarine shipbuilding, but across the board. So the CTE schools are important. We've done a lot of work in Rhode Island with the EB, developing the requirements to specifically work in submarine shipbuilding, and we're sharing that information across state lines. I'm a big believer in we shouldn't be reinventing the wheel where we have good solutions. But we're also reaching out because in 2030 and 2040 is when EB will reach its peak workforce demand. So we have to reach out to students who are in the 3rd and 4th grade now and start telling them the story about, hey, have you ever considered that? It's sort of neat. Here's some things you can play with. Equally important, I think we have to educate parents. And make them understand that trade and industrial skill jobs are great jobs. So are engineering and science, but let's give the kids the full purview and see where their interests lie.
Well, and it's not only skilled labor from the point of welding and those types of skills, but also electricians and builders, because Electric Boat and those of that ilk, they hire everybody. I mean, there are many different facets, and you know, I had the opportunity to go through the plant in Electric Boat and to see as they were in the process of building a submarine. Thank God. I mean, I have a pretty high clearance, but it's such an unbelievable opportunity for people to make a substantial amount of money. These are critically important to the United States, to the defense of the United States, and they are looking for and to pay individuals who have a skill set above and beyond, and they teach you that skill set, which leads me, Molly, to the cybersecurity maturity model certification. You know, and it's a mouthful. When I was talking to Matthew before, I said, just say CMMC.
CMMC, which is a good acronym too, huh?
Yeah, it is. But, you know, that is such a critical element of what we're talking about today for what you're doing and for others.
It is. You know, cybersecurity is important to everything we do. When we talk to our smaller companies and say DoD has requirements, CMMC is a standard that we're going to have to meet if you want to do work with the Department of Defense. But every company should want to be cyber secure and cyber resilient.
Amen.
You don't want your trade secret. You don't want your intellectual property. You don't want to be just shut down because somebody's hacked into your system and therefore you can't do any work. So, well, at times, again, it may seem onerous. It really is good business practice. Now, along that line, the woman from DoD who's leading the CMMC effort, she's going to be one of our presenters at our upcoming event called Defense Innovation Days. So this will be our 8th Defense Innovation Days. It really is a national convening that happens right here in Rhode Island. It's at the Marriott in Newport, Rhode Island. We bring in top thought leaders from across DoD and Congress. We're going to have the Secretary of the Air Force. We've got our whole delegation, and they're going to be leading discussions. For instance, Senator Whitehouse on climate and resilience, Congressman Cicilline on foreign alliances, Congressman Langevin, obviously on cybersecurity. And we also have Senator Reid, chairman of the Senate Armed Services Committee, who will sort of be giving our kickoff. It's a really important event. We bring in people from across the nation. Again, it highlights what we have going on here in Rhode Island. And it's also a 3-day event to really have some time for thought leadership, thought discussion, and also to showcase for SENEDIA companies and the technologies they have that really can help DoD meet their needs.
Yeah, I don't know how we can help you with that, Molly. I know we've attended in the past, but if you need anything, please, feel free to ask us. We're happy to do so. And the other thing that's really critical is that Senator Reid is on appropriations. And appropriate, I know he's chairman of the Armed Services Committee, and that's very important, but appropriations is the key committee in the Senate. And appropriations is very important, not only to SBA, but also to the Department of Defense and how money is spent. It's really interesting because we've had a lot of discussions about cybersecurity generally, and in your industry, that is critical because you don't want state secrets going to the CCP. But the really interesting thing is, it's not only those companies dealing with Department of Defense issues, but it's those who are supporting companies that are working with the department, working with industry within the defense industry. I call it a gazinta, something that goes into something else. I know that's a real slang for New Englanders, but if I'm making the ink that's going into the pencils that are being, used by individuals who are dealing with Department of Defense contracts, and I'm just saying that as a general, my cybersecurity is as critical as the people who are dealing directly with the Department of Defense. And I think, Molly, sometimes we lose that. We don't talk about that, and we don't encourage them to protect their information as well, which is just as proprietary as anything else. Isn't that right?
It is. It's interesting. As part of our submarine shipbuilding workforce development effort, what we did is we created a next-gen supply chain partnership. So we went right out to the supply chain and said, hey, you are the critical piece of this. What do you need? How can we help you? And certainly cybersecurity discussions have been a piece of that. You're absolutely right. The weakest link in a chain can break the chain. And once the chain is broken, it impacts everybody. So I'll just go back to it. We're all really incumbent on being cyber resilient, even us at home. I mean, you don't want to use the same password on everything, because if your system gets hacked, there's repercussions to that. If companies you do business with get hacked, there's repercussions on you. So again, we all have ownership in this, and we all have to step up to the plate and do what's necessary.
It's funny because I was a victim of fraud, and everybody always said to me, go to the IRS and get a PIN number so that nobody can access. And I went to file my taxes last year, Molly, and somebody had filed for me. Wow. The irony was I actually owed, and they tried to get a refund.
But it didn't work out so well.
Not for them. But the bottom line was, I went in, and it was a couple more steps, but in the future, I can access my PIN number and change my PIN number on a regular basis so that nobody can file on my behalf. And this happens. I didn't realize how widespread this is. And when you start looking at the security of the United States of America and what the businesses that are dealing with you have to secure in order to protect us, the American people. I mean, it's just mind-blowing. And that's why, I'm constantly out there saying, hey, listen, do whatever you can to protect not only what you have, but what you will make. And I think that this really is critical. And I know, by the way, I know if you want to ask Molly a question, you can put it in the chat, or you can raise your hand. I see some of my friends that have seeped into the guest over here, including Cheryl Zimmerman, who I absolutely love and think she does a tremendous job at Far Sound. I know she's now transitioned her But Cheryl served on a board well, she served on a panel that we had concerning supply chains. And she did, I mean, what she told that audience was so prevalent to what's happening today. Supply chains is still an issue with the Department of Defense and SENEDIA. Is that not correct, Molly?
Right, supply chain is critical. And in order to have a healthy supply chain, obviously it has to be cyber resilient. You have to have a workforce in that supply chain. Yeah, we've got to keep vigilantly focused on that.
How do you encourage people who have the potential of getting into DoD contracting that may be just outside of that realm? And I ask this not only from the SBDC side of it, because and somebody just texted me saying, "Hey, listen, you know, I own a business. I'm trying to get into the DoD contracting. Not sure if this is the best for me." I know we talked about the PTAC, but that's really when you get down that road, so to speak, where you're already down, you got a product to sell. But this is an individual that doesn't know whether or not they have a product. What would you recommend that they do?
Two things. I would say PTAC is still an excellent place. Melody and her folks can even be that, but reach out to an organization like SENEDIA. More than happy to talk to somebody, you know, give you advice or give you somebody else to talk to if we're not the right one. I will tell you, you're going to find people within defense. We're very open to talking to companies, U.S. companies, obviously, that are interested in supporting the supply chain, because it's to all of our benefits to have those discussions.
Molly, big discussions long time ago, very far away, because I was in the middle of them, about bundling and the concerns of bundling and its impact on small business. And I know that we're dealing as much with the technical side as we're dealing with the actual construction of the. What's your opinion on how, whether or not small businesses have gotten a better fair shake in the last, and I'm going to say the last 10 years, because that's when we try to decouple a lot of things? Because remember, if you have a giant contract, they're required to get subs, and if you want to opine on the Sam's problem, I'd be happy to listen to that as well.
So, you know, again, most of my career was working as a civilian for the Department of Navy. So I lived acquisition on that side. And I can tell you, whether it's Navy, any part of DoD, they understand that reaching out and having people give services and products to us is very important. And they really do take a hard look at what is the best way to do a contract vehicle. But I will tell you, there's the ever focus that small businesses are the key. If you go to Department of Navy, they have a small business advocate. If you go to Department of Defense, they have a small business advocate. Every command that does any acquisition has a small business advocate, because they're focused on making sure we do the reach out. Now, you're right. Sometimes the government can go directly to small businesses and do a small business set aside. Sometimes it's a more complex thing where they believe maybe we need some of the bigger primes involved. But when they do that, there are set targets of what percentage of small businesses still have to perform. So if somebody out there is a small business thinking of wanting to get into Department of Defense, it's a great market to get into. Just be prepared that it takes a little bit of time. And I will tell you, I think SAM has gotten better. I mean, it's a process that you have to go through. And so you just have to diligently go through it.
The painful process, Molly.
Well, you know, I've done it for my organizations, and you just have to sit there and go through it.
I know. And you're right. It's getting better. It's just I think when we look at, besides PPP, idle complaints, that's probably the third number of complaints is, you know, I'm having a problem with SAM. But and I know that there have been some changes and there will continue to be changes, but you know, we all have to work through it. Molly, we're actually at 11:29. That's how quickly this goes. But is there anything that I missed? Is there anything that you want to say? One thing I do want to say to everybody is Molly really is a genuine diamond here in Rhode Island. And if you don't utilize her and her experience, you really have done yourself a disfavor. You got to talk to Molly, because she's the kind of person who is accessible to everybody and got so much information. You had 30 years, I have 40 years at SBA. Gee, that's a lot of years, Molly.
Yeah, that is, huh?
But what, is there anything I missed?
I'd just say at the very end, if you're a company wanting to do business with the Department of Defense, seriously consider it, and there's help for it. And equally important, there are great jobs, whether it's engineering and science or trade and industrial workforce. Encourage folks you know to take a look at defense. You give back to your country and you have great careers.
I agree 100%. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today here on Mondays with Mark, and we'll see you next week. Bye, Molly.
Thanks, Mark.
Thanks, Molly. Thanks, Mark.